One. Yeah, 1 2. 1 1 1. Yes. Power to the mains. Where is where's my audio? Who's on sound in this lousy place? There we go. All right, I can hear myself now. Sabina says, "Are you still live?" No, that was a test. I'm live now. Going live now. Um, see if this works. Bum 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 bum. Can you hear me? How are you, folks? Let's do the live audio check. I can hear me, and let's just make sure we've got Benny Rodriguez and Ann Everett. You know, today I'm going to go live with the Q&A. There you go. If I mute that, then it works, and that works. All right. We got beats. Hello, people out in the blogosphere. Oh, sounds like my coffee's coming. Thank you, my dear. Plant-based. I think this is either Guatemalan or Nigerian. Lori Lynch Schaefer, how are you? Hi, Sabina, you're back. And it was a test. It's late over there, yes. What is it, 21 hours? So we got coffee. We've got some plant-based beets. This is just nonsense, folks. I didn't really work on anything cool today. Some people would say, you never work on anything cool, Andre. I just got a little, I switched my system around and I was doing some audio testing. So that's what we have. So this is not a music day though. We are here for Meatless Monday. And how's everyone doing? Well, I'm going to start with, I put that picture up because we've been growing potatoes. When I say we, that's Robin who's been growing the potatoes. But yeah, we've been growing potatoes. We've been really enjoying organic potatoes all summer. And, you know, it's funny because you find out that if you just simply cook some of these foods that we crave, like you know, if you crave corn and corn chips, just cook some corn, eat some corn, eat the whole food, and you realize, wow, that is so fucking good. And I didn't buy some plastic bag of oil and hydrogenation and salt and nonsense. Likewise, potato chips, which I love, and I don't eat them that much, actually. I know better. I'd be 350 pounds, and I would hate being that fat. Yeah, it's okay to hate being fat if it's yourself. I guess that's still allowed until the thought police tell us that you can't even fat shame yourself. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, I don't like it when I've got extra pounds, and I have a few extra pounds right now. I used to be really fit, used to bike every day to work, and a lot of things happen in my life, and I've had ups and downs. But I feel okay. I feel good. I feel healthy. But I'm exercising a bit more these days. But potato chips, right? That is the one, man. I mean, you can sit there, man. Oh man, give me some potato chips, right? And I like the really good ones. You know, kettle chips are a good entry level, good chip or crisp, as the Brits call them. And the Brits know their crisps. Don't fuck around with potatoes in England, in Ireland, in Poland, in Turkey. You know, many of these countries over there. Don't fuck around with a potato in Peru. Psh, or Nigeria or Ghana, let's just say most places on earth, people know what to do with those delicious tubers, those delicious root vegetables. So we're going to talk a little bit about root vegetables today because they fit into a few of the things that I discuss with you folks every week. And I'd love your questions. Please hit me with questions. All these tubers, all these roots, white potatoes, red potatoes, purple potatoes, blue potatoes, sweet potatoes, yams, cassava, and manioc, and all these other roots. Some of these are roots, they're not specifically tubers. But around the world, yams, edo, all these things in the Caribbean. Wow, it's one of the things you find it everywhere as I travel around the world. Japan, Israel, Poland, Iceland, Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad, you know, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Russia. I've been to all those places, and there's always a potato. There's always a tuber. There's always a root. So we're growing some for the first time. We've been enjoying them. You know, organic potatoes, a 5 pound bag. I don't know, 3.98 or something like that, 4.98. It's ridiculous how dirt cheap it is. And this is one of the topics I talk about each week is how to have a meatless diet that's affordable, that's affordable. We get this, I think it's a false narrative, but there's a narrative that eating natural is expensive. It's really not. And I'm going to die on that hill. I gladly will. And when I die, my hill will show that for however many years I spent all my money on food and herbs and plant-based life, and none of it on Zantac and Nexium and Pepsid and Nyquil and Dayquil and insulin, and then all the prescription drugs that are just normative. I mean, go look it up. Average American. I've heard average on 6 pharmaceuticals. Then I heard average of 8. I don't know what the number is, but I'm on none. I'm not bragging. I'm not at all. I'm not at all. I'm far from perfect, folks. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that we have control. We have control of this stuff. We don't have to spend any of our money on Pepsid AC. What the fuck is that? Or Nexium, which they took off the market. And y'all kind of snoozed on that. We talked about it here a little bit. Did you notice that? Did you notice that Nexium got taken off the market? I don't know if it's the main Nexium or Nexium PM or whatever the hell. I have never taken this crap. Here it is, April. It's funny. It's April 1st, 2020. Maybe they did that on purpose. This way, no one will think it's for real. But the FDA did require Prilosec. Is it Prilosec too? Yeah. It's stuff containing ranitidine. Ranitidine? I might be saying that wrong. If there's any chemists on here, please come on and help us on this. But the FDA requested the removal of all ranitidine containing products, which is several of these antacids. And let's pause for a minute and just in layman's terms, what's an antacid? It's anti-acid. It is stopping the proper acid functionality of your digestive system. I don't know. I think you want that. You want your digestive system full bore, right? So right off the bat, the concept of an antacid is one that, I kind of go, okay, in an emergency, yes, of course. I love science and modern medicine, and believe me, I'm not, certainly not anti-medical industry and things like that. But we should be skeptics, and if they're telling us to take stuff all the time, we should maybe ask and say, do I really need this? Is there some other way to lower my blood pressure? Is there some other way to address my psoriasis? Is there some other way to help my irritable bowel syndrome and my indigestion and my Crohn's disease? Does it have to be this toxic cocktail? So that's kind of an ongoing discussion, and it's beyond the scope maybe of this little get together, which is really about taking one day a week and going meatless. But you can't separate it, right? I mean, if you start thinking about, well, things that would I like to get better in my how I feel? How do I feel every day? What's my relationship with my body? How's my, you know, what's going on for me, pain wise and joints and various things. Then you start ending up looking at the natural solutions and side effects of drugs. So I invite you to please look up the stuff on Nexium and actually Prilosec too. Uh, yeah, this goes back to January. Heartburn drugs recalled is another article I'm seeing here. So again, what I love doing, folks, on especially on this show, is to I don't know it all. I know some stuff, and I can bring over 15 years of experience and my life experience, what I've seen work for 10,000 people, and that's a low estimate. I stay up on the news. I see what's happening, and I'm here to talk about it. But I really the main thing I want to do is inspire you to look some shit up, to you know to go do some research. We live in an incredible time where you can go read 5 points of view on a topic. Some of them just anecdotal, some of them experiential, some of them opinions, but a lot of them hard science. And you can go and uh, uh, make some decisions after you've read some hard science. So I invite you on this issue of antacids to do some research because they don't care about you. These companies, that much I'll join the kind of conspiracy nuts just for a split second and say, yeah, there's a lot of not caring about you. I mean, yeah, there's someone at J&J and Pfizer and Hoffman LaRoche. Are they evil? No, they're not. I know chemists. I have scientists in my family. I have really good friends who are biologists, chemists, industrial engineers, or chemical engineers. They're great people. They want to help. They want to change the world. But they grow up under the same bias and weird, USA food pyramid seriality as everyone else. So they don't really ask certain questions. So let's go to some of your comments. I love that this is participatory. Mark Lorano. Mark, let's have you on the show, bro. I keep forgetting to reach out to you in between. But let's get Mark Lorano, Master Chef. Bassam says, Potato Head Bobby was a friend of mine. Bassam always feeds me the lines to sing. Bonita sweet potato is my favorite. Yeah, is that a Japanese one? Love them. Kimba, how are you? Kimba, we need to catch up too. I know it's been me. I've been so stupidly busy, but I promise I'll reach out to you in the next day or two. It's kind of nuts here, but I'm so sorry, my friend. I'm not blowing off your messages and your wonderful links to the vocal stuff. You're growing oca. It's in the oxalis family, clover, and produces edible tubers, similar to potatoes. Wow. Trust you to find something completely, unique and, wonderfully nutritious. But clover, I love clover sprouts, and that all makes sense. So Lori Lynch says Zantac taken off the market. That's correct. I believe a couple of things, Lori, that contain that ranitidine. Yes, I know how to spell it, but I didn't know how to say it. So if you want to put the phonetics in there for me, but ranitidine, it's one of those. So there's a few products that contain ranitidine, and I've never had them in my life. I don't know what That's the fascinating thing, folks. Is you can do that. You can take back control. We all would check off a box if there was a questionnaire that said, do you want the pharmaceutical industry making decisions for you, or do you want to make them yourself? Everyone. I can't think of anyone that's going to check off, um, myself, unless you're dealing with pancreatic cancer. Then yes, that's all in the hands of, the Sloan Kettering or Johns Hopkins or wherever you are, with their very high failure rate, we must say. It's not like they're magic on that topic anyway. there's probably just as much success elsewhere, but that's another discussion. But my point, though, on let's just stick with over-the-counter stuff. The stuff I see people taking, it's just mind blowing, and my heart goes out to them, especially when it's for really simple stuff. I have friends that pop Tums like it's candy of some sort. So anyway, um, antacids, yes. So Sabina says, eat natural food. If you want less fat, eat half. Yeah, that's generally, yeah. There's some caveats there. Like you don't have to eat half an avocado because that's good fat. But I see what you're saying. Cut your portions. I think is maybe where you're going with that, which I agree. Cut your portions, But potatoes, which is the focus today. So anyway, potato chips. Tell me what your favorite potato chips are, folks. I fucking love them. I stay away. It's like crack cocaine if they're really good. I don't like shitty potato chips. I like really good potato chips that are cooked in peanut oil or organic oil of some sort. Fresh cut potatoes, if I can get to that. But there's these spicy ones from Blair's, the people who make the Insanity hot sauce. They do these potato chips that have ghost peppers in them and stuff. So I like all that, but I just keep them away. They cannot be around me. But Robin has come up with this incredible. So we cook a lot of potatoes, and that means 95% of the time she's cooking them. But I cook a pretty mean potato curry, and I do some, just I can bake potatoes. If you can't bake potatoes, that's a let's set the bar there, folks. Everyone here should be able to bake a potato, and it's okay if you can't. We're here to help. We're here to talk about simple new foods. That's a great Meatless Monday idea. Clean 2 potatoes, scrub them, get any dirt out, cut the eyes out if there are any. If there are eyes, then the potatoes are sprouting. They want to grow. So keep that in mind. You've probably kept them around too long. If they've got some green happening around those eyes, and they want to grow. They're getting some sunlight on them. So store your potatoes always in the dark. Potatoes are tricky though. You don't want to forget about them because nothing like rotting potatoes. The worst smell and messy and ucky. So you want to get fresh potatoes, get really good fresh potatoes, and have them soon. But keep them out of light because they want to grow. Those are really, if you remember in grade school, we would do some things with potatoes, right? Sprouting potatoes and leave them on the windowsill. And every day you come into the classroom and, oh my God, So potatoes are a wonderful way to see a plant's kind of genetic disposition to keep growing. But if you've never done that, if you've never baked a potato, folks, that's what I would assign for this week's class. Learn how to just bake a couple potatoes. And they bake fine in a toaster oven if you're scared of your oven or if it's too involved. I bake potatoes in the toaster oven all the time. They're great for me because a toaster oven, one of the good things is that you can't fuck up as easily. You turn it to 45 minutes and you go away. And I'm bad because I come downstairs and I start going like this, you know, and I'll forget that I'm heating up coffee on the stove or something. So we got to be very careful around here for fires. And but the toaster oven's awesome because you throw something in there, turn it on, and if you forget, it's cool. It's just gonna turn itself off and it's gonna stay warm. And sometime later you go, oh shit, I was cooking a pot pie or some potatoes. No problem. It's in there. And then you can. So I suggest to you if you're scared of your oven or you're scared of cooking, if you don't know how to bake, that's cool. Um, Take some potatoes, nice, fresh, clean potatoes, clean them up. Just scrub them under running water. They do grow in dirt, so you want to remove all the dirt and get them nice and clean. Some people are grossed out by potato skins. Okay, so you peel the whole thing off, but a lot of nutrients in the skin if you can keep that. I like to pierce the potato a few times with a fork or a sharp knife, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, and just pop it in the oven. I think I usually do about 375 for 45 minutes, even 400. You know, and get creative. You can brush a little olive oil on there ahead of time or halfway through the bake once they're getting a little soft and crick, crinkly skin. Potatoes are amazing because it's a palette for all kinds of stuff. So one of these things Robin's been doing lately, which is amazing. I need to have her put the recipe up if she's watching. Robin, would you put this up? The She takes potatoes and boil them in vinegar. Weird, right? But it's a well-regarded technique. You boil them in vinegar. So now the potatoes are cooked, they get soft, but they've been impregnated with this vinegar flavor. And then she takes for context, use a pint glass is great, and just mashes the potatoes down so that they just squish out, so they look ill-shapen and they're all weird. And then she bakes them, very hot oven, 450 or something. That's a moderately hot oven, I know. And bakes them till they're crisp, which doesn't take too long now. And then you sprinkle some sea salt and some English style malt vinegar. Oh, pour yourself a pint. Man, oh man. And you get that potato, you satiate that potato addiction. Man, and they are so good for you. So I think we blow off potatoes because most people encounter potatoes, as powdered mashed potatoes or in potato salad and all these kind of nasty ways. Um, wow, that looks like vodka. It's just water. No vodka today, though we will do a show on vodka. Okay, let's continue with some of your comments. Oso says, antacids are not a cover for symptoms of poor diet. Yes, unfortunately, people do use them. Scott, how are you, bud? Used up the rest of the just egg and had a fantastic breakfast sandwich. Great. Not the healthiest, but delicious. Yeah, well, sounds healthy to me. Tomato, vegan cheese, vegan sausage, patty, just egg, onion on a bun. That's awesome. That, you know, it's about enjoyment, and that sounds delicious. And that sounds like it's got all the umami going on. Maybe there's some mustard in there. That's my jam. Mustard everywhere, but that sounds great, man. And looking at it through um, our kind of nutrition lens, you've got some fresh vegetables in there, tomato and onion, so you're getting some fresh fiber and enzymes and all the good stuff that's in a raw vegetable. The vegan cheese, a little bit of protein, that tends to just be kind of, flavor, wonderful flavor thing, wonderful umami, textural, but a little bit of protein, yeah. But more importantly, vegan cheese, no cholesterol, no mammalian hormones, no estradiol, no estrogen, no progesterone. We take lightly the 30 or 40 or 50 hormones that are in a piece of cheese. Um, and if you're a woman and you're saying that you're at a point of your life where you're reducing your body's naturally reducing its production of estrogen and progesterone and all these things. Um, and that gets into, I'm not even going to go into this area, but that gets into, there's folks who define themselves as a woman, which I'm totally in support of whatever anyone wants to define themselves. But some women have estrogen and progesterone and estradiol at high levels, and it starts reducing in their 40s, and some don't. So you have some, that's where that whole discussion bumps up against science, and just make sure that we're looking at that as you look at issues of aging, because let's say why am I wading into this? While Caitlyn Jenner is a woman that's of menopausal age, she's not going through menopause, right? So you got some things there where these ideas are not monolithic. They're kind of a lot of moving parts. But one of them, let's just say, for a human that has menopause in their in their life, I want to ask them to really read up on dairy. Even if they love dairy and they crave it, that might be a time to look at dairy and kind of say, you know what? While I'm in the hormonal change, and my body, my mammalian body, is literally ramping down production of all these mammalian hormones, do I want to be eating them every day? Do I want? And sure enough, we look at a lot of health problems of women in menopausal years and rates of things like breast cancers and different glandular cancers. Many with a with an at least tenuous link to milk and dairy. Um, Interesting area. And again, as I often do, I'm just saying, go do some research in that area. Go check that out, especially if you're having some hormonal stuff. So anyway, that was just a sidebar on vegan cheese. But the rest of that sandwich looks great, Scott Fisher. And we had Just Egg today too. We have it about twice a week or something. Really awesome. That stuff. I'm going to do a special just on it, and I'm just reaching out to see if I can get those folks on the show. Those of you who don't know what Just Egg is, I'll do a screen share, and it's basically a mung bean product. You know, mung beans. You see them in a lot of, especially Chinese food, but a lot of Asian food. Those wonderful high protein beans that are sometimes a garnish, but sometimes part of a whole salad. As you would expect, they're very high in protein, and they have a very interesting texture once you uh, macerate them, pulverize them, and liquefy them, and they can be made into a like an egg sort of a fluid, a liquid. You pour it, and you can make omelets and frittatas, and it's really crazy stuff. I mean, I've looked at it and said, "Whoa, who cooked an egg?" I'm not kidding, folks, and usually I'm very skeptical of some of those things, and I go, yeah, this looks and tastes nothing like what it's trying to taste like. But Just Egg, really amazing stuff. Lori says WFPB pharmacist here. That's awesome. First of all, that a radio station has a pharmacist, but that's very cool. No, I know that stands for something else. I'm just kidding. Um, it kills. Lori says it kills her to see her patients come in to pick up 5 or 6 different meds. I know, right? I see it, you know. Sabina says that we buy meds in supermarkets. Strange for Germans. Yeah. So a couple things there. Yes, there's a lot of things that are over the counter in America that are in a pharmacy in real democracies, and uh, yeah, I would also say we do have supermarkets here that have pharmacies in them. So and that's probably strange for you too. You have pharmacies, apothecary, right? Apothec. I'm saying it wrong. Um, I've been to some wonderful German apothecaries, and incredible the knowledge. People come right over and want to help you and have an attitude that's wonderful about. They have kind of an equivalent attitude about homeopathic and herbal and plant-based drugs, and things from the laboratory, from the pharmaceutical industry. It's really wonderful. They kind of present a couple choices, and they're very realistic. They're like, this one you're going to have to take the benzodiazepine or whatever it is. But sometimes they say, there's this echinacea extract or this, elderberry extract that's wonderful for what's going on in your throat. So I love Germany so much. Love being there, but I love when I've had to go into an apothecary. So yeah, we're strange here, Sabina. We take so many over-the-counter drugs, and we have so much lobbying pressure in the pharmaceutical industry that pushes a lot of these products to be just over the counter. And you're right. There's lots of things in supermarkets that are kind of questionable. They're very strong drugs. Thank you, Kimba. No worries. Renata Dean. Oh, so Lori's saying Renata Dean or die. So that's exactly the question I have, Lori. Is it Renata Dean or Renata Dine? So that's exactly the question I'm asking. It's not a big deal, just like a stupid etymology nerd kind of word thing to get it right. Scott says his favorite from that family is Trader Joe's jerk plantain chips. Oh, yes, those are great. I think I had those once or twice. Yeah. God, anything with the Jamaican jerk flavor. Okay, and plantains, please. My favorite. Sabina says the blue chips, potato chips with the blue potatoes with wasabi. Oh, that sounds good. Never had those. But, oh, You're right. Potatoes are nightshades and fast fuel for inflammation. Can't eat them, love them, but my arthritis starts in them. Yes. Oh, so and that's one of those great examples of. Um, well, it's a long story, and we can direct message on that. But if someone has joint inflammation, I look right away to acidic food sources. What's your flesh food intake? Chicken, beef, pork, um, duck, bison, whatever. How much dense animal protein do you eat? Because that's going to acidify, and if you're already in an inflammatory situation, it's going to feed badly into that. Anyone who's scoffing at this, take a look at the people on kind of the paleo and the keto diets, and going back to the zone diets. Wonderful diets for losing weight. Fantastic diets for fat burning, for dropping extra pounds. You're getting rid of all your carbs, of course, but I can probably easily say 100 people that I've dealt with on those diets. This is going back to 1997 or something with the Zone. Remember the Zone? Barry, what's his name? Barry Atkins, something like that. No, no, Barry Sears. Atkins, of course, is the Atkins diet, which came earlier and was a clumsy version of this. I actually debated Dr. Atkins for about 5 minutes one time on the floor of the Natural Foods convention. Debated him a little bit about protein, animal protein, tempeh, and the here's this guy. He's the expert in protein, right? Dr. Atkins, rest in peace. He actually fell and hit his head or something when he died. Terrible. But he's the supposed doyen of, well, not the doyen, but the expert of protein through the 70s and 80s. And I asked him about a thousands-year-old protein that's eaten in probably the fourth most populous nation on earth, Indonesia, and he had no idea. He never heard of it. Wow. And I called him out. I was like, wow, dude, you go on and on about protein and vegetarian food is too high in carbs. And I'm telling you about a protein food made from fermented soybeans, excellent nutritional profile, more protein per gram than chicken and turkey, and you don't know about it. I said, this was a glorious moment in my life to call out Dr. Robert Atkins to his face. And back then, no cell phones. That I'd show you the video right now, but it was cool. He was a little stunned. He was like, "Who's this guy?" And I told him we were at a natural foods convention, as I say, and I said, "Dude, go 2 aisles over to Light Life or to Nasoya or to there's 6 companies here. There's this new Canadian company with their hemp-based tempeh. What century are you in? Go try this stuff. If you are genuinely dedicated to putting people on a high protein diet, then find out about healthy proteins. It makes no sense to me. Anyway, so this is all from Oso's point. I've seen people with nightshade reaction. In other words, people who reacted to tomatoes, eggplant, potatoes, and a number of other nightshades. Tobacco is actually a nightshade. I've seen that, and I've seen those folks reverse that all by going more towards a more alkaline diet, and by doing a lot of gut health, a lot of just a lot of work around gut health. And I think everyone knows what that collective term means. Working on digestion, working on your intestinal flora, working on the pH. Trying to raise your pH, go more alkaline. So that's something to think about. You may be able to eat potatoes in your life, but what I'll leave you with is what's causing the inflammation. Is it the milk, the chicken, the fish, the cottage cheese? Not so much fish. That's the last on the list, actually, if you're eating good fish. But any other flesh foods, any other dairy foods, white flour. How's your flour intake? Do you eat bread, bagels, crackers, pretzels, pasta, regular pasta? A lot of us don't realize how much white flour we're eating. Wow, it's in everything, and all those things I just said. Um, English muffins, toast, most breads. and that can really feed into an acidic situation, an inflammatory situation, which then you have a piece of potato and it goes crazy. So then we go, it's the potatoes. Well, they're a trigger, but we do create a biological environment for really good foods to treat us badly. So moving along, Elizabeth, good to see you here. Tell me how you're doing with your diet changes and stuff. That's fantastic. Growing potatoes in your garden. We just started. Home fried home potatoes. Yeah, homegrown. Instant pot baked potatoes. Never tried that. We've used our instant pot to make curries and things with potatoes in them. Sabina offers a recipe here, folks. You can grab that. Cut the potatoes in wedges, bake them in a marinade of lemon juice, garlic, mustard, rosemary, oregano, and olive oil. Wow, sounds perfect. Perfect. And that we do similar sort of thing. Maybe the lemon juice later, and maybe not the oregano and the rosemary, but we're gonna try that. Yeah, all the other stuff. Um, Sabina's on the balcony, growing on the balcony. Okay. Uh, Asking for Robin's recipe. Yes. Um, Great. A lot of great suggestions. So also, okay. So continuing that discussion, be careful with vegan, vegetarian foods. I stop right there and I go, I'm going to agree with you because you're right about processed foods. But I'm also, this is a topic that's one of my favorites, and I hear it for 36 years. People are always telling vegetarians to worry. But there's a mathematical problem. We're only a small percentage of the population. If we went into a hospital right now, pick your local hospital, go in, go floor to floor to floor, and ask people, are you a vegetarian or are you a standard American diet? And you know where I'm going here. Most people that are sick, most people with cancers and heart disease and simple stuff like irritable bowel syndrome, indigestion, Crohn's disease, most people, though, with the serious ailments that are killing Americans, hypertension, heart disease, cancers, most of them are not vegetarians. So don't worry about us, right? Like let's do triage. You know that term triage, right? You see it on MASH if you ever watch MASH. Work with the motherfucker bleeding out of his eyeballs with 3 broken limbs and his heart's hanging out. Let's work on him. And the woman who just came in who has a snake bite or broken arm and that's it. Let's work on her second, and then third, let's work on the guy who you know stepped on a nail and or a thumbtack and it's still in his finger. You get my point. So let me start there. Let me say you're totally right, bro. Be careful with all processed foods. But whenever I hear that, I have to ask someone. Like I'd have to ask you: are you a raw foodist? Are you eating only unprocessed foods? Because if you're eating something like chicken, your average chicken, which I'm going to talk today, one of my topics is the chicken industry and what's happening with the collapse of that. If you eat regular non organic Tyson chicken, for instance, it's far more processed than any vegan hot dog or vegan cheese or anything. Fight me on that because that chicken has been fed genetically modified corn and soy, usually. Sometimes it's fed chicken feathers and other animal protein. That chicken has been given anywhere from a dozen to 30 or 40 different drugs in its food and directly administered to it, growth hormones, antibiotics of various levels of strength, um, you know, fattening agents, on and on and on. And then when it's slaughtered, they dip it into a chemical bath to try to desperately stop the flow of salmonella, which there's a salmonella outbreak every 2, 3, 4. It's pretty. So chicken. Everyone loves to throw some chicken on the grill and kind of say, "Hey, I'm eating healthy." You are if you killed that chicken yourself, or you got it from an Amish farmer or someone nearby who killed it themselves. So you know it was a chicken growing outdoors, eating bugs and bits of grain that it's been thrown and things. See what I'm saying? I have total respect for anyone's choice to eat flesh, to eat meat. And I say that every week. But we got to be honest that the vast majority of people in the 95, 99 percentile in the United States, where I live, are eating foods that are incredibly toxified in the animal world. Um, I love that we have a growing um, situation of whole foods and natural food stores where people are getting natural bison and lamb that's grazing in grass. And I love it. I don't love it. On the other, I don't want these animals killed, but I love that people are making effort. Um, that's a statement that gets thrown around as if we're the ones. We're a tiny amount of people, vegetarians and vegans. It's growing, and I love that it's growing, but it's really within that group. It's a small amount of people that are overeating the processed foods. So we're welcome to. We can talk about this as much as you want, but the numbers are the numbers. I'm much more worried about the amount of people going to fast food, McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken and all those things that are still incredible amounts of sales. That's some processed food for you right there. So be careful with processed foods. Processed foods carry higher glycemic loads and demand more insulin to process. So let's take that apart. That's a generality. I mean, um, tahini is a processed food. Tahini takes natural sesame seeds and liquefies them, pulverizes them, macerates them, whatever language you want to use. That's a processed food. It doesn't add glycemic load. It's a high protein, high good fat food. So I think what you're saying is processed foods with processed sugars. Now we're on the same page. Absolutely, bro. So whether it's stevia or unbleached sugar or organic brown sugar or honey, maple syrup, any of these things, sure, those are high glycemic foods. Some are better than others. I'm going to argue that something sweetened with maple syrup, since it's coming in there with the minerals and all kinds of excipients from when they make it, um, it's a lot better for you than white sugar, let's say. Let's say there's a scale and you've got different sweeteners. So totally with you that higher glycemic load foods, but that's not all processed foods, which was your implication. Um, so processing in and of itself is not. I don't have a problem with processing. Human history is about processing foods. Um, Anyone out here that eats natural cheese? Cheese is a processed food. We take the milk of an animal or milk of cashews and almonds or something, and we add a fermenting agent and we add a solidifying agent, and we process foods. Wine is a processed food. Beer, a processed food. So I'm all for processed foods. It's the next part of the discussion that's always interesting, like how processed and in what way. Um, so um, so I'll adjust that and say yes, some processed foods, if they're done with sweeteners, will demand more insulin to process and have a high glycemic load. Sure, than whole foods, minimally processed ingredients. There are several glycemic lists. Yeah, agreed on all the rest of that. And that's something, as I think you know, I say that every week. I'm always pushing towards a whole foods diet. I always joke around and say, I don't mean the store, but the, the concept. But yeah, points well taken. But tell me, maybe you do later. I'm scrolling down on inflammation. What's your intake of animal flesh, white flour, and processed grains in general? You want to talk about processing? A loaf of bread is processed food, right? Because you take a grain and turn it into flour. Sabina says vodka is the diminution of water. Yes, I know. I did this. I love that you're using the. What letters are those? Is that Cyrillic? Is that Russian? I know. I've been to Russia a few times, and what I love is they. I might have to get some vodka going. What I love in Russia is you sit down at a fancy dinner. Let's say I've been to a few there. You have your plate, knife, fork, soup, spoon, maybe another little knife for butter or whatever. But then you have like a wine glass, a water glass, and a vodka glass. And the waiters come around and you just look away and they fill up your water glass, but they also fill up the damn vodka glass. So you have that little, it's not much bigger than a shot glass. You go, okay, I'll have a little, and you turn around, and you're talking, you look back, it's full again. So in Russia, it is like water. Apothek is the word. Yeah, I thought so. I know I said it wrong. You have to buy most drugs there. Yeah. So in Germany, Apotheken. That must be the plural. Speaking of Berlin, the Berlin School, which of course is Tangerine Dream and all those folks. So maybe we'll get a little Berlin School going at the end of the day today. Um, okay, Lori, great. So each of pronunciations are okay. Good. I'm a freak for those kinds of bits of trivia. Good system. You buy a drug, pharmacist asks. Yeah, I love it. Love the German system. And Shirley Beckwith says, popping in for a bit. Yes, favorite veg potatoes. Elizabeth says, plants are too have issues with chemicals and GMOs. Unless you get organic chemicals. Yeah, I yes, I talk about that all the time, but absolutely, let's remind people every day that plants that are grown conventionally and sprayed and have uh, GMO activity going on are things to be concerned about. Absolutely, we try to eat it organic as much as we can. We grow some of our food. We've grown little bits for years, and we're growing more this year. But yeah, you're totally correct. Let's see here. Um, just looking at my YouTube feed. You're totally correct. Eat organic when you can. Grow it yourself when you can. Go to a farm market when you can. Hello, Rich Gregory. Um, Sabina says, yeah, one of the reasons for antibiotic resistant germs is the antibiotics in our food. Yeah, absolutely correct. Organic food for animals is not enough. Exactly. A lot of the modern races of animals, like black and white cows, are less resistant to viruses and bacteria. Yeah, it's really, yeah. You said it so well. You said it so well. Um, and that's one of the things I want to segue to that actually, because I want to talk a little bit about. Oh boy, microphone, bad microphone. I want to talk about Meatless Monday. Always, I want to talk about what I ate and what you ate. But then we're going to talk a little bit about the pandemic and the impact on the meat industry and how we can impact that just one day a week. So please post what you ate today. I'd love to see what you ate this wonderful Monday, the 21st, which I believe is the first day of fall, right? Is it today or tomorrow? So let's get some more caffeine. Plant-based. So, okay. What did you have today? Today, today so far, um, a little bit of, oops, that keeps coming on. A little synthesizer video. We had the just egg. You know, that stuff's wonderful. And Robin, I steamed some kale last night. I did some kale. We do kale a couple times a week. It's a staple here. We just always have uh, a pot of steamed kale, which then can show up in a soup or uh, in in miso soup or some other soup. It can show up with some potatoes or some sweet potatoes or white potatoes. It can show up with some tempeh, greens and beans. One of my favorite quick lunches. Since I always have some fresh steamed kale, no more than a day or two old, keep in the fridge, keeps for several days. Um, a little kale or chard or broccoli rabe or collards with any bean, a serving of black beans, white beans, red beans. Wow, what an amazing combo. And again, something that you see in a lot of different cultures, that combination of beans and greens, you know? Um, so, by the way, I've got my COVID fro going today. I picked it out because, what do you think? Oh, my hair's getting good in the back. Um, but that's what we had today. Just egg. So I didn't say what it was. So Robin took some kale and some fresh organic tomato slices and just heated them up for like a minute tops, just in some extra virgin olive oil, just a touch, just to get them warm, and then poured some just egg over it, which forms like an omelet type of texture. And then um, she should come on and say what the ingredients are. Let's see some pictures, Robin. And then put um, I think a couple other onions and things like that, some garlic, and stuck it in the oven like a frittata in the cast iron pan. And so we had this incredible high protein because it's made of mung beans, high fiber, high vitamin, delicious. Oh, man, that stuff is so damn good. The just egg. And one of my tests is how do I feel? I don't care how nutritive something is if I feel like crap after eating it, right? Which is rare. I feel great on just egg. You know, it's have it a couple times a week. It's not like a daily food. But and to Oso's point, it's a processed food. They take mung beans and they take some kind of carrageenan or seaweed extract or something. It's made in a factory. What? It's processed, but it doesn't raise your glycemic index. So, again, I'm going to stress because people say these things and they become enshrined, and vegetarians have to put up with this weird bias that it's some kind of a dangerous diet and you got to be careful. I love that one. Yeah. The the people having thousands of heart attacks a day, they don't have to be careful. That's okay. That's just normal. That's just what happens. But the minute you find out your niece went vegan, there's always a bunch of mansplaining like, well, tell her to be careful because at one time I was in college and the guy. Yes, you can do any diet badly. And lots of 14 and 16-year-old vegans fuck themselves up. I'd be the first to say. And they do need to be careful and eat some vegetables, eat some salads, eat some fresh sources of protein, eat fruits, eat nuts, eat sunflower seeds, eat salads, learn about, you know, cooking properly. But how come no one says that to the other teenagers, right? Who are going down to Arby's and just eating pizza and just living on McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken and like, right? Think about that culturally. No one ever says to those teenagers, Dad, Mom, going out to, to the lousy fast food place with my friends. All right, honey, be careful. There's never, right? There's never some cultural push of you know be very careful what you're going to eat, Johnny. Be very careful because which is funny because they're the ones getting sick. So anyway, um am I hung up on this? Probably. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it as i I go through life um very interested in narratives. I'm fascinated by narratives and how they originate, how they become, what's the word, calcified, how they become the way we, repeat these shibboleths, I think is the word, right? These things that no one took apart, and so any of you who know me know that that's my obsession, and I do it in politics, I do it in cultures, the culture war stuff, um, I do it all day long. I just love looking at crap that we say and ask what what's the basis of this? And since natural food is so important to me, natural lifestyle. So great stepping off of Sabina's point there. Great point there about animals and how we're making them sick and more resistant to antibiotics and things. Big problem here in the U.S. And she's talking from Germany, where they actually have serious food laws. They still have problems, and they actually have 21st century serious fucking food laws. We are a joke here, folks. We're a joke. And that's not being anti American. That's just saying that our regulatory um, situation is a bad one. It was a bad one before this guy got in. That's not even what I'm saying. He put the pedal to the metal and he put a bunch of people at FDA or EPA or, you know, uh, CDC, even HHS, that are often questionable in the ranks. He's one of the things I'm segueing to is the um, the chicken industry. And this guy, what's his name? Coleman is his last name. I forget the first name. I'll tell you in a minute. He's like the fifth largest donor to this president's campaign. Um, and make no mistake, this part is bipartisan. The Democrats, the Republicans, they all take money from big pharma and big agriculture. So this area, they're the same. But when you do that, you have less rules, right? If the chicken industry is pouring money into your campaign, whether you're Bill Clinton running in Arkansas, and he did get a lot of money from the chicken industry, whether you're Barack Obama, whether you're George Bush, whether you're this guy whose name shall not be said, the it doesn't matter, and hopefully the bipartisan nature of that is clear. Um, the end result's the same. Americans get food of a lesser quality when we allow this kind of lobbying, when we allow this kind of money. So this is, this is a problem. So let's go back. Lori has a wonderful dinner coming up. Quinoa and brown rice mixed with roasted black beans. Roasted black beans. Interesting. How do you roast them? Just in a sauce? And so are they cooking in a fluid? That sounds great, though. I just do black beans real quick on the pot. In a pot. Carrots, onion, peppers, taco seasoning. Sounds good. Sounds Mexican, which is my jam. I'm all about some Mexican food every day. Today you had hummus and pretzels and some dark chocolate. That's great. a little comfort food. Uh, Monday is Sabina's fasting day. Not yes. I'm sure it's also your fastening day, but it's also your fasting day. I'm sorry. I'm not making fun of you. I love when I can have word puns. Sabina speaks perfect English, by the way. You're starting it again for German dinner. Bread, butter, tuna salad, some raw vegetables. It's for dessert, vegan yogurt from coconut. That's great. And I don't have a hard ban, but on Meatless Monday, no animal foods. But we know that people are going to eat them. But today's the day to tell us ideas that are not animal foods. Just one day. Elizabeth asks, do I take B12? How do we get B12? Great and long-lasting debate. So the two foods I eat that there's a debate on these. I eat a lot of spirulina. I take spirulina, and there's a debate on the form of B12 that's in spirulina. Is it an analog? If I'm remembering correctly, if you look at the chemical compound, and I forget the word for it, maybe our chemist friends can tell us. When you have a compound diagram, one of the elements can be on this side or that side of the chain. I believe the form of B12 in spirulina it's inverse, so there's some argument about whether it's bioavailable to humans. You hear. I've read a lot, and there's a lot of evidence on both sides. So, with that in mind, and the other source is tempeh, and some tempeh has B12, some doesn't. And what science seems to indicate is that it depends on whether it's been pasteurized after it's made. Because after all, tempeh is a fermented food, so there's a living component to it, right? You make tempeh by steaming and cracking soybeans. In fact, one of my dear sisters is about to make tempeh from scratch. I should ask her to document that and come on my damn show. I have two sisters who are vegetarian, and I'd love to have them as guests if they would ever call me. But one of my sisters is making tempeh, and depending on how you make it, you're going to add koji or some sort of fermentation starter, and so there's life on there. It's like a yeast sort of thing. So there's life. Yeast creates B12. So does any kind of living microorganism like that, or most of them actually. So that's your answer, Elizabeth. So I eat those things. I eat yeast because I eat nutritional yeast, and I eat things like Marmite. Marmite's another thing that is a B12 source. Marmite. Anyone, our British friends, our Australian friends are just waking up now at 6 a.m. Uh, People in Australia are having some B12 right now on their toast. Marmite or Vegemite. Remember that in that song? I come from a land down under. He just smiled and gave me a Vegemite sandwich. And he said, I come from a land down under. It's funny that that song had like a Caribbean thing going on. Like, what was that? It's like, well, we're on an island, man. Yeah, but okay, talk about. Um, I don't like the term culture appropriation, but certainly a bit of an eye roll on that one. But I love that song. I love Men at Work. Throwing no shade, throwing no nightshade. I but it's kind of funny, right? It's got the little uh marimbas or something. But they mention Vegemite, right? They mention a Vegemite sandwich. I love Vegemite. I love Marmite. Another B12 source. So I have it I have it coming in a couple different places, Elizabeth. Finally, though, I do take a vegan multi. I take an over 50 for men multi. Am I religious about it? Yeah, no. Sometimes I go a long time and I don't take it. I'm really, really good when I'm traveling, when I'm on tour, because then I have a little box of my spirulina and my what else do I take on the road? Vitamin C. I take uh, the multivitamin, so I'm really good on tour, and then I kind of fall off at home. So I get it, yeah, in a multi, and every once in a while, if I don't really buy vitamins, but every once in a while, if I am in a store and I go, hey, they got B12 on sale. Let's get some. So I think it's like one of those few things. Vitamin A and D are other things that most people are low in. Most humans are low in D. Most Americans, because of where we are in relation to the equator, and a lot of us don't spend enough time in the sun. But a lot of Americans, no matter what your diet, D is a very so you'll find that D is put into many things: soy milk, cheeses, things like that, so that we get it supplementally. But you're right, B12 is a major one because it's important in um, your neurological system. It's important for the brain and any of the, a lot of connective tissue and a lot of neurological stuff. Though that's the first one I worry about with B12. It's interesting because then you get into the argument of are humans vegan? Are humans, and I think the most honest thing. So both extremes are wrong. The people who claim that we're absolutely meat eaters and we crave meat and we hunt meat, we don't have fangs, we don't have claws, we can't really catch many animals and eat them. So that doesn't ring true until we learn how to trap things. And you find in the ice record, you find that humans certainly trapped mastodons and large elk-like animals. Absolutely. Once we learned the trickery of trapping and snaring, and once we learned how to make bows and arrows and then other instruments, sure, we could conquer the animal kingdom. But a human, just on their own in nature, is an area I'd like you to think about because a human with no tools can easily be a vegan on a desert island. If that desert island has fruits and green leafy stuff, and of course coconuts and things like that, if that island has a protein source like nuts and other roots and other seeds, you can get everything just by going and getting it and finding it. So just as a theoretical exercise. That said, I think that vegetarianism and veganism is a modern psychological definition. Okay. And what I mean by that is the fossil record shows that ancient people, when they, depending on the season and depending on where they were, they did eat animals, but very small ones. They ate mice and birds and things they could catch. They ate worms and insects, but otherwise, 90% of their diet was plant-based because that's what they could get. That's what they could find. So as humans traveled around, this is before domesticating animals, before any of that. Humans ate what they could get easily. I guess I could summarize what I'm saying by saying that. I'll say it again. Humans ate what they could get easily. Okay? Which wasn't vegan at all because they were once the first human to find how delicious honey was. Wow, right? You took a good fucking stinging for that. but humans ate honey and honeycombs and things like that. Humans ate, of course, all the fruits and things that you can easily find, berries. Humans, we are frugivores largely. Humans do great in like our cousins, the apes, with a lot of fruit in our diet. And that would include things like tomatoes and other things that modern. That's very modern food, but a tomato is actually a fruit. Um, but humans could easily get worms and insects and things, so we ate them. And there's the theory that we became so dependent on external sources of B12 that unlike other mammals who don't need B12 externally on the level we do, um, there's some theory there that humans. Um, we also have a funny thing with vitamin C, where dogs and other mammals create vitamin C, um, and we don't. We need vitamin C is an essential vitamin. We have to get it. We have to eat green things or citrus and other foods that have vitamin C. So all very interesting. And my relationship with vitamins are when I remember, and you know, um, and for the more important ones like A, D, and the B complex, I probably get a little more serious. Um, so shibboleth, yes, I said that before. I wanted to a custom, principle, or belief distinguishing a particular class or group of people, especially a long-standing one regarded as outmoded or no longer important. So I used it pretty close to properly earlier. So what do we have? Atkins died of a heart attack. Wow, I didn't know that. If that's true, if that is your real name, I did hear some stuff about that. Well, he definitely had heart disease. Absolutely, yeah. I remember reading that before. Of course he did. What we act like that's a surprise. The dude just lived on, I think all the wrong foods. He had a lot of health problems actually. So God bless him. But you know, uh, okay, thanks for the recipe there, Lori. That's awesome. So yeah, I don't know if Atkins died of a heart attack, but now that you remind me, I remember him having heart disease, having several heart problems, and I'm happy I met him because what a rock star, man. The dude, you know, but all of this came out of my comment that the Atkins diet, the paleo diet, the keto diet, the zone diet, every single one of those, there's pros and cons. The pros are, yeah, you lose the fucking weight. It's great. Hundreds of people in my career I've seen come into the store. They're on one of those diets, and I've watched them over 3, 4, 6 months. And if they're doing exercise, doing this stuff, fantastic results. I'm here to salute those diets. On the downside, though, I'm going to go with most 75, 80% of those people had either real serious digestive issues happen at some point, cramping and irritable bowel and um, um, what's the word? I don't even remember the word. uh, Constipation. I don't know what that is. Constipation. They have, you know, some in the extreme case, and I have a friend recently who had this. They start getting kidney issues, even liver issues, because of this high density animal flesh. With the exception of everything else, they look great. They lost weight. They're fit if they're working out also, but at what cost? At a cost of a lot of acidity, a lot of inflammation. Add to that list a lot of the people on those diets. A year later, there's joint pains, there's early arthritis. People 32 years old with arthritis happening. They're fit, they're trim, they lost all that weight, but they've been pouring such acid forming food into their bodies that, uh, and acid is a pretty common problem, as we talked about at the beginning of this with Prilosec and Prevacid and uh, what's the other one? Nexium and all these things. So, okay, Jack says broken wall cell chlorella algae with spirulina and giant cell vitamin. Love it, bro. I love it. I love all the algae. Chlorella, we were just talking about this before. There's that Klamath blue-green algae from Lake Klamath, wherever that is in Utah or Iowa or something. That one got caught up in a little bit of um, pyramid scheme marketing, some of the companies that sell that. And there's some neo-religious stuff but blue green algae, love it. Love the algae family. And I'm a science and space nerd. I've always been interested in NASA and space travel and all that. Interesting announcement last week about Venus and this microorganism, this compound they're finding. But uh, spirulina and algae is something that they've uh, tried to take into space. Let me turn the volume down here. There we go. There's me a minute ago. Something that they've uh, tried to take into space. Let me turn if I hold a note long enough, maybe this is like natural echo. Hey, tried to take me. Hello. If I hold a note long enough, maybe this is like natural echo. Hey, tried to take me. Hello. If I hold a note long enough, shibboleth. This is like natural echo. Hey, shibboleth. Shibboleth, shibboleth, oh me, oh my, oh my, oh me, shibboleth, shibboleth, oh me, oh my. Somewhere over there, I can tell. Somewhere, pretty cool. Over there, I can tell. Somewhere, over there. If I'm nothing else, I'm an idiot. So, but no, that's pretty cool. That was kind of old school for any of the sound people here. That was the first Echo, right? Setting up a second tape machine and letting the return come back to the first tape machine. Tape Echo, right? For those of you youngins, that's where that term comes from. So this is kind of a modern version of tape Echo. That's me on another computer 15 seconds or whatever later. Not even, it was less. And then coming back. Anyway, we could have fun with that. There's no walls here, folks. Talk about the fourth wall. We're right there. Rich says, my daughter was an early influence on me, bettering my diet. That's awesome. Deciding what to do tonight with quinoa. That's great, man. Quinoa, a very high protein grain. It's from, I don't know if it started there, but I think it started in the Andes, right? In Peru and Chile and Paraguay. Meaty, beady, big and bouncy. I love that album. My favorite band. Jack calls it Colin Hay. That's right. He's still touring solo. Also says he opened Asheville's first certified vegan restaurant, Jai, next to Earth Fair in 2002. That's great, man. I'm sorry I missed out on that. I got here in 2007. That's awesome. And hopefully, again, you don't have to talk about it publicly, but hopefully you're eating, what's it called? A non-acidic, non-acid diet, you know? But that's awesome that you opened that restaurant. Sounds like an Asian name, Jay. Lori says, B12, you're taking the pill, it's poorly absorbed. Yes, exactly. Thank you. And I didn't specify, but if I've ever taken it, it's usually a spray, a liquid spray. And those little red sublingual tabs. Yep. B12, I've spent a lot of time studying. And remember, I some people know this. I say it once in a while for those who don't know. But I'm a more than 15-year professional in the natural foods, organic retail. For over a decade, I co-own a natural food store in central New Jersey, an award-winning store for our for the volume, the size of our store. We were doing over $1 million business a year, which we didn't know. We just knew we were real busy. Apparently, in the industry was incredible, and we got a couple industry awards, and it was good to be recognized by our peers nationally in the United States. And we would go to trade shows, the annual trade shows. Those of you who are musicians, you know about NAM, the thing, North American Music Marketing or whatever it is, the big NAM show, right, in Anaheim. Think of something like that for natural food. So every food you would find in a natural food store or Whole Foods, every item, everything there for you to sample. It was awesome. You walk around for hours just noshing and trying stuff. But the fun part was seeing new stuff. But anyway, so I've been to about 10 of those shows, and it really felt good to go to some of these shows, and people would recognize us. My late partner, Sherry, and I, would go for the 10 years we owned a store. And then for 5 years before that at the George Street Co-op, I would go. And that's a pretty famous store too. And I love that in both cases you would meet these people, the CEO of Light Life or Annie from Annie's Naturals, who became very good friends, she and her husband Peter. Let's do a real time thing here. I met this guy early on. It's time for me to drink something cool. I'm gonna have a brew, folks. Let's let's crack that open. And my ice is melting. I'm gonna have one of my favorite things. I haven't had one of these in God, 6 or 8 months. I don't drink soda really, and it's Reed's ginger brew. You ever have this stuff? Really good. It's a Jamaican style brewed thing. So good. I don't even care, but I'll look at the label. Who gives a fuck? We're dying because of a bat sandwich, and I'm going to worry about how many carbs are in this. Please. But it's 33 grams of carbs for the whole thing. Who cares? Fresh ginger, 17 grams. How about that? And not much of anything else. 5 grams of sodium. But I don't think about that shit. Here's what I do instead. I don't drink 4 of these a day. That's how you do it, Americans. Don't drink a fucking liter of soda every day. Done. You know, but I love this stuff. And what the hell's in it? I can't get any light on this. Okay, there we go. Filtered water, just so you would think. Filtered water and ginger and honey. This is the premium one, so he doesn't have sugar in it. It's caffeine free, which is a bummer. No, that's fine. Yeah. Wow. Canadian clover honey. So these are bees that have health care. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's just what you would think. And it's funny. Thanks for reminding me as I talk about the natural foods world. So I remember one day turning the corner in one of the aisles of the natural foods show, and there was this booth, and this guy Christopher Reed. That's his name, right? Christopher Reed. I think so. Chris, I think so. Really cool guy. I should look him up because, again, I go back in this industry to the late 80s. And so we meet this guy. It's his first show, and he's got one product, Reed's Ginger Brew, one flavor. I remember that day. And I was like, what? And they did like a Jamaican thing around it. You know, they had maybe some reggae music. And he was riffing on the fact that in Jamaica they brew a delicious ginger brew. And I raced over. We tried it. Let's order 2 cases, 10 cases, whatever. That's the thing at these trade shows, too. You order and everything's 25% off. But from day one, I loved the Reed's Ginger Brew. I just love ginger. I love ginger tea, ginger in a stir fry, ginger in miso soup. But I remember meeting Chris. I'm going to do that. Maybe someone puts a link here to Reed's Ginger Brew. I'm going to reach out. And then the next year he had 2 or 3 flavors. But I remember asking him, like, dude, fructose, that's a crappy sweetener. Why are you using that? And I remember he was a little, those kind of people don't like criticism per se when you call them out on a cheap ass ingredient. And I called him out. He wasn't happy. And many other people must have called him out because very soon he had this one, which is called Premium Ginger Brew. See that? Premium. The only difference, I should check, see if this is still true. This is going back 25 years. The only difference is the premium one has honey in it, has a natural sweetener, and not just fructose. So always look out for that kind of stuff, folks. Look for these sweeteners. Look for these shitty ingredients. Jack says, listen to the acoustic version. Yeah, Colin Hay. I've definitely heard that. I kind of keep an eye on his solo career. I did a tour about 3 years ago where I was playing places right after he did. So I saw the poster and it was like Colin Hay with an acoustic set. I was like, good for you, dude. Just keep it going. Kevin says the Japanese have it best by mixing in water-based meat products. I don't understand that. Um, yeah, water-based meat products. Do you mean? Okay, I see what you're saying. You're saying like um, animals from the ocean, right? Is that what you mean? I wasn't sure if you were talking about process. Sushi, by the way, is not fish. Sushi is just the rice. Sushi is vinegared rice. That's literally what it translates. Sashimi, though, sashimi is the raw fish. So, and again, one of those things. We just say sushi. Hey, we're going out for sushi. Everyone knows it means the whole package, right? The miso soup, the sashimi, and the sushi, which would be the rolls with rice in them. But just to be ridiculously pedantic, because I am, sushi is not the fish. Um, and there's lots of vegan sushi. Um, so you're okay. Oh, so certified or certified organic. That's awesome. Um, I'm not sure what syndrome. Robin Renee, good to see you. Okay, so this. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but um, okay, the sound man. There's the musician. There's the sound man. Yes, tape print through. That's true. Um, hello, David. How are you? Um, thank you, Robin. Yes, it was a great store, and of course, um, right around the time we met, I was working at the other health food store, uh, George Street Co-op. So yeah, but I know what you mean. The one that Sherry and I had, it was awesome, and it's a gift that keeps on giving because um, uh, to this day, I don't have any kids um, that I know of. No, I don't have any kids, and the none that are alive anyway. And the gift that I have from uh, that time period when we had these wonderful employees um, really is something that keeps giving back because I know all of them and most of them were in touch. And to see people that came into our employ as teenagers, 17, 18, 19 years old, and now they're 40, and, 43 and 45. And some of them have kids, some of them don't. Some of them are running other stores. Some of them are yoga teachers. And one of them works at a tofu factory in somewhere in north of San Francisco. Um, one of them's on a TV show. Um, you know, uh, um, you know, uh, there's a guy, Casey, who does a show, Man versus Food or something like that. That's our ex-employee, So very proud of those times, and they're kind of my kids. They're kind of little people that I met in their teens. So that's thanks for reminding me of our store because it really was a great experience. The other thing that's great is the hundreds, the thousands of great customers and people we met, and so many of them still reach out to me. I love it's um, very touching to just get a private message or an email from someone that says we used to shop in your store and thank you so much. My daughter had Crohn's disease or um, uh, ADD or some serious shit sometimes. And you and Sherry helped us for years, and we changed our diet. We cleaned up. We got a lot of excitotoxins out of our diet, which would be artificial colors, artificial flavors, all this junk that Americans eat every day. We got rid of hydrogenated oils. We did this. We did that. I just want to thank you because she just graduated college, and back in you know uh, 2002, we were told that she's gonna be a problem child forever. She's not going to be able to learn this or learn that. Her cognition is never going to be okay. I'm telling you real stories here. So that's really so empowering, and it means that I've left something on this fucking miserable uh, plane of existence. No, I'm kidding. I think our plane of existence is just fine. We've messed it up in some areas, but I that's just a joke. But I'm very happy at the legacy, the history of second nature. So you know, So thank you, Robin, for reminding me of that. Um, oh, I see. Right, you were finishing my sentence. Irritable bowel syndrome. Right. I think the funny thing with this is that there's delay. So by the time I probably said that, you were typing it in, and I'm not reading this real time. I really got to be a little faster. Um, Sabina, the ginger brew in glass. Yes, we love it. Zero plastic. Um, ginger beer, and then Wayward Radio. I'll check that out. That's awesome. So let's see. We've got probably about a half hour. Any questions? Any suggestions? Any news? I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the chicken industry because I've been reading that, and it's a fucking nightmare, folks. You know, one thing that's funny is if you remember at the beginning of this pandemic, you were seeing these reports of um, how many chicken plants were closing. Do you remember that? And it's crazy, man. So I'd like you to, on your own time, please look up. If you just Google chicken plants closing, for instance, you'll see a bunch of articles going back to April or March. Because remember, early on, chicken is the fucking worst, folks. And I want to focus on that for a minute. If you love chicken, man, please rethink that shit. It's so environmentally toxic on top of the cruelty and all that. But you can't really argue with someone on cruelty. They're either against cruelty to animals or they're not. And I'm not one of those vegans who's going to browbeat you and give you a pamphlet or something. Um, and it's the kind of thing it does just happen one day though. One of the ways is, do I have that picture? One of the ways is for people to look at their dog, look at their cat, and kind of say, would I kill this animal and eat it? And if not, why do I kill another animal and eat it? So you know, there's that angle. But anyway, focusing on chicken. Chicken is just very popular. It's one of the most popular flesh foods in the USA. And so there's very high production of it. And the chicken plants, a lot of them started closing because to keep chicken dirt cheap for you, we have to do a few things. We have to have very low regulation so that Tyson and all these big companies, I'll pull up the other one in a minute. There's an even bigger one. So they don't have to pay any pesky fines when they're caught, you know, all kinds of things if they're caught inappropriately disposing of waste or toxicity. I remember there was a Tyson story in Arkansas, and Bill Clinton was involved in kind of, as a governor then, looking the other way and just helping them not have too many annoying laws, right? Um, so we pay a high price. We also pay the high price on the front end because in most of these chicken slaughter plants, you should look this up. It's mostly immigrant workers, legal and illegal. It's usually brown and black people. I mean, you've got chicken plants in places like South Dakota, North Dakota, where there's no black people at all, except for the ones, the often African immigrants working in the animal slaughter, working for Tyson, working for the Smithfield pork and things like that. So the story I want you to think about a bit is that all those plants started closing down big time at the beginning of this breakout, by about the end of March, I should say. And remember, it was on the news a little bit, and it's really been pretty effectively taken off the news. So I'm just scanning through some headlines here, and this is I'll tell you the sources, and I'll just quickly read some headlines. CBS News: California chicken plant to temporarily close after 8 COVID cases. CNBC: Tyson Foods chairman warns food supply is breaking down. This is the guy from Tyson Foods. He's saying that millions of pounds of meat can disappear from the food supply as the company temporarily shutters its beef, pork, and chicken plants. My main point is, why did this stop being on the news? And I read an article recently that explains it. There's a big chicken conglomerate in Arkansas, and the guy supplies chickens to some of these other companies, and he's made a lot of steps lately to say, stop talking about it. Get this shit off the news. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, but sometimes that's all it takes. A very powerful advertiser to say, "Hey, can we talk about this on page 10, please?" So anyway, I just read you stuff from April, August 28th. Chicken plant in California to shut down over coronavirus, and it's a local California radio station or TV station, KCRA. Um, April also. In 1 month, the meat industry's supply chain broke. That's when they had those problems at the end of April. I remember that when prices went up for meat, for animal flesh. People panicked. Remember that? People panicked and cleared out the supermarkets of animal flesh. And they evened it out. Obviously, they did some stuff. One of the things they did is bring in more robots. Did y'all know that? Yes, there's more robots killing animals now than there were before. If you study robots, as I do a little bit, like Boston Dynamics, is it Boston? Boston Dynamics, I think that's the name of the company. They're the ones that do those scary robot dogs that some of the police departments have now. So the robots are coming. But they have robots that will slaughter and kill these animals for us. And this is their chance to move them in and say, oh, they can't catch COVID. So we can go around these flimsy labor laws that said we had to hire this many union people or whatever. Anyway, please look this stuff up. I'm not going to sit here, go blow by blow. But I'd like you to, here on Meatless Monday, let's talk about eating less meat. And, let's be real that even if you hate animals, you probably love the environment. You probably love your children's future if you have children. And if you don't, you probably just love the future. You want people to be okay, like I do. I'd like you to think about it and to say, for me to eat chicken 5 times a week, 8 times a week, what's the cost? What am I doing? And as I've said before, if it means you just up the bar a little bit and start getting only organic chicken locally, depends on where you live. Some of you live in Pennsylvania where you can get Amish chicken fresh. You go there and pick them out. I wouldn't do it. It's just not something I support. But I'm open-minded enough to know that, or I'm a real politic enough to know that people are going to eat that. What are you going to do? Let's at least meet them halfway, raise the quality. Let's stop this massive, industrial level, mechanized murder machine of Tyson and all these companies who are massively polluting, especially here in the South. You go to South Carolina, North Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, all these states where a lot of these chicken plants are, Missouri, Arkansas, they're huge in Arkansas. Tons of problems with lakes, streams, rivers, incredible problems because they have very little regulation to just put this waste into the water stream. So you're paying a high price just so you can have fucking chicken 5 times a week. I'm sorry. I got to be brutal about it. Spend a little more money. Try to, on the other side is the human cost. And that's what I'm saying, is that most of these plants are facing massive coronavirus issues because you can imagine if they're treating the animals like that, what conditions are there for these humans? Who cares about them? Half of them don't speak English, says, the people running these things. And there has been an explosion in food sales with us being all in lockdown. None of that money is getting passed down to the essential workers. None of them are getting any more than the shitty pay that they normally would get. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Put in a link. If you've heard of some chicken factory that's doubled the pay or paying, Corona bonuses. I did read about a place that was having such a hard time getting people in to work that they were paying a little extra, but that's different. That's because they were desperate and they wanted to get people in. So anyway, that's awesome. Kimba and Robin, of course, know each other very well from our wonderful crucible of amazing culture and progressiveness, known as New Brunswick, New Jersey. At least our scene was progressive, right? But good to see that. It's old friends connecting. Are they shredding male young chickens? Yes, they do, Sabine. A lot of people don't realize that. If people who love cute little animals, but they can't quit their chicken. I meet people like that all the time. If you go look up what they do with little male chicks, because male chicks are fucking useless in that industry. So you're talking truckloads of cute little yellow birds, beautiful yellow or white little chicks, and they shred them. They just put them into a shredder. They are useless economically. It's so fucking sick. It's one of the sicker parts of that whole industry because it just goes on. It's invisible. Sabina is saying that in Germany it will be they will forbid it in a year and a half in 2022. Once again, Sabina, you live in a functional democracy. You live in a democracy that has as one of the aesthetics concern for citizens, proper regulatory environment. There's a million problems in Germany because some clown is going to text me and say that I'm not saying it's perfect. There's no perfect country, none. Tons of problems in Germany. But the problems they don't have is universal health care, 14 years of publicly funded education, really good food regulation compared to our Stone Age bullshit, and six other things that we can go through. Um, I'm sure they're supporting their out of work citizens at a much higher rate than we are. Plus, every one of them has health care. So I applaud you, Germany, and because little by little, these little animal cruelty steps are taken in these European countries and in many South American and African countries and Asian countries. So, but you're right. A male chick produces no eggs. They are killed by shredding 1 day old. No way to know if it will be male or female. And by shredding, it actually means shredding. Living 1 day old chicken. Yeah, Sabina. Thank you. We got to be that frank about it. I really appreciate you putting that in there. Here's this is pretty funny. I got to get the camera right on this. So this is a good one. Isn't that great? That is so fucked up, right? Because let's explore that, folks. Suddenly it's gross. Suddenly it's cruel. Suddenly it's disgusting, right? But once someone tells you, "Oh, it's not a cat, it's chicken," I'd like you to explore that. Why is it now okay the minute it's not a cat? That and I just love this meme. It's really it's just a good one. Uh, you know that just says it all. Anyway, that's a good one. Um, if anyone would like this, just text me and I'll send it to you, or you can find it. But that that's a good one. Um, okay, so great. Uh, COVID. You know, here we are, folks. Segueing a little bit, uh, we're here with another zoonotic viral outbreak. I urge you to check out the 1918 outbreak because that was swine flu. That was also zoonotic. Zoonotic for you word nerds. Z or Z, Oonotic. Zoonotic. What does that mean? That means a pathogen from another species, basically. So the 1918 swine flu. There was a fluke. Do you know there was a outbreak going on during? Oops, got to get a new mic cable there. Do you know there was an outbreak going on during Woodstock? And they actually warned people. It wasn't as virulent as this one today, but I'm not making this up. Go look up uh, viral outbreak 1969. and you'll see that there was, this flu, and it was like a swine flu. So we've had several swine outbreaks. There's the H1N1, and is that the avian flu? I always mix them up. But there's an avian flu, like a bird flu. Pretty sure that's the H1N1. And then there was Ebola. There was SARS. There was MERS, right? Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. So what do each of those have in common, my friends? Those are all um, zoonotic, which means from another animal. And I really don't think enough energy has been put into explaining to people that that's rare in the pantheon of viral activity that's out there, and human beings have dealt with viruses from our whole evolution. Um, and I can't believe I have to pause on the word evolution, and my brain spins off that we live in a country, especially we live in a world, but especially a country, purportedly the greatest country ever, where lots and lots of people question evolution, and they question they think the Earth is 4,000 years old, and well, it's up for debate. And those are my feelings. You've got your feelings. Wow, my head explodes that's where we are, because it's gotten us to where we are, to where, well, I have my feelings on masks, and I've got my feelings on viral activity, and Bill Gates, and yeah, don't get me started. Um, so the blood cells. Some strange ways. Swine influenza, known as swine flu or pig flu, is a respiratory disease. Occurs in pigs, caused by the influenza A. The known swine influenza viruses include influenza C and the subtypes known as H1N1. There we go. So that one's a swine. H1N2, H3N1, H3N2, and H2N3. So turn on some NIN, because I'm losing my mind on this shit. How about this? Transmission of the virus from pigs to human is not common and does not always lead to human influenza, often resulting only in the production of antibodies in the blood. So it's not common. Yet when it happens, look the fuck out. Because it happened in 1918. And if y'all haven't been looking this up, man, you're doing a disservice to yourself. Please, if there's anything you remember today besides miso mushroom soup is awesome, and some of the recipes people put, if there's only one thing that you take away, and that they shred baby male chickens so you can have cheap chicken, the one other thing I'd love you to take away is, please go look up the 1918 pandemic if you haven't. Some of you might be saying, Andre, what does that have to do with Meatless Monday? Everything. Because I'm trying to reduce animal slaughter and animal agriculture, and us having animals at the base of our food chain. That's why we're here today. Okay? I know there's debate about this, and I read both sides, but the predominance of the evidence is that this viral activity is from a virus that evolved in the bat species, and that we got it, humans got it. There's also some debate, was it a pangolin, right? That's that other spiny skinned sort of anteater looking animal that they also cruelly capture and torture and kill in China for food. We're not sure. I'm willing to say I don't know. But all of the evidence points to one of those two sources, with a lot more scientists putting their money on the bats, because we study bats. There's about 12 or 1,500 bat species on planet Earth. They're one of the oldest mammalian species, I believe, on the order of 50 million years old. Very ancient animal, very well studied animal. We study the hundreds of species that are out there. And one of the amazing things about bats across the board, they have one of the most robust immune systems on planet Earth. Did you know that? Yeah. The shark immune system is way up there. Hence that rush on shark cartilage against cancer, right? Remember that about 20 years ago? Which is quite illogical. Like, let's just take part of the shark bones and that'll make us as. That's how humans think. We're a fucking cancer on this planet, friends. We really are, man. I tell you. I stopped short of saying I bet against us, but I'll ponder the bet. So so that wiped out a bunch of sharks, that whole shark cartilage trend. And I'm ashamed to say we had some of those products in our store, but we pushed back on it. So bats, and I invite you to look this up. Bats are fascinating. I love reading about bats. There's some subspecies of bats or some species of bats that pollinate. They are night pollinators. Did you know that? So not all plants pollinate during the day with bees, but some of them pollinate with bats, including one of my favorite plants, the agave. So I get agave sweetener from that. I get tequila anejo con tacos. See, tequila and mezcal and agave sweetener all comes from the agave plant. So thank you, bats. We're mad at you right now, but you're doing some good work there. You're doing the goddess's work when you slip down to Mexico late at night and pollinate that agave plant and the flowers. Thank you so much, bats. We love you. That's right. Agave mezcal tequila. We're having a little fun on that, but seriously though, the bat immune system is one of the most powerful known to biology. Now, where am I going with this? So if you're a virus that gets into a bat, picture that for a moment. If you're a virus that goes into the bat, uh, you know, biology, you're in the bat species, you have infected bats. Wow. You are a bad motherfucker. You're a badass virus. If you're thriving inside bats, wow. I mean, again, go look this up. I'm not making this up. I mean, I read 6 articles on this already talking about bat immune systems and the research they're doing on coronavirus in bats. And it spreads because they shit it out. So it's in their bat guano. And there is some theory, because bat guano is a really good fertilizer, there's some theory that handling this bat guano, in fact, there's some stories about in China, people cleaning out caves where all these bats are, of course, and being exposed to, tons of this guano, inhaling it. It's getting on your hands, getting all over you. Maybe you have protective shit. But if you're around in a cave, you can imagine, where there's tens of thousands of bats shitting, and if coronavirus is in that bat population, it's in the feces. And at some point, some human's gonna, go like that an hour later, and a little bit of coronavirus. So there is some theories of an outbreak coming there, but bats are involved here, folks. Like there's, with near certainty, which is how you have to deal with science until you're certain, but with near certainty. So that leads to, again, my main point on Meatless Monday is that if we are encouraging these things, these wet markets where you go and it's just a fucking hellhole on earth, these wet markets with chickens and pheasants and turkeys and 10 other types of birds and beavers and otters and all kinds of other little water mammals and every kind of fish and sea animal, sea creature you could imagine. And tons of fruits and vegetables also, but tons of eels and insects that are eaten and amphibians that are eaten and all this stuff piled up on top of each other and dying on each other and excreting on each other. They're in fear. Picture these little mammals that have just been captured deep in the forest, and they're just freaking out in a little cage. Their stress enzymes, their stress hormones are off the chain. They're shitting in fear. They're urinating on some other animal below them. They're dying. There's blood. There's fecal matter. I mean, not good. Not good. And this is not the first time there's been an outbreak from the wet markets. Now, lest anyone say, well, Andre, you're being racist. You're talking about the Chinese. It's ridiculous, because I'm just as critical, and I just was, about American animal agriculture. And it's disgusting, and it's horrific, and it's cruel. I focused on chicken, but we could go all day on how the beef industry is creating a nightmare for all of us. There's not much regulation. They are feeding these animals scores of hormones, steroids, antibiotics, GMO grains, food. They are keeping them in. Well, it's incredibly cruel from the get-go. These animals that are indoors on these concrete floors, fluorescent lights on all the time. Everything about it means a stressful existence. Just so you can have cheap beef. You know, we're selfish fucks, humans. We really are. Um, and I don't want cheap. I don't want broccoli to be cheap if it means abusing workers and filling it with toxins. I'll pay more. I'll gladly buy cheaper clothing and buy better food if it means other human beings have safety, have a thriving source of employment. Uh, 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 you know. So these are just social justice questions that we need to connect to our food. And on Meatless Monday, it's an easy and fun way to do that. Um, okay, so okay. It was just an episode of American Dad. Steve was hired to tell the difference between male and female chicks. Wow, that's great. Wow. Thank you. Can you put a post of, is there a YouTube of that or something? Yeah, wow. Discussing feelings instead of facts. Way. Yeah, Sabine, feelings are important, but yes, it's important to be clear with when you're being factual or talking science. Um, but you're right. I don't argue this stuff on feelings. Very important, and I'm glad you. I think that's what you're saying. I don't, because you can't tell someone you should feel sorry for animals, and I don't usually go there. But I think you can appeal to people on how's your water supply. Will California and Arizona and Nevada um, and New Mexico be in a water war in 10 years? I mean, it's a serious problem in those fast growing urban areas where there's not enough water. So they bring it in, they fight from state to state, you know. And if one of the larger uses of water in California is the beef and pork industry, then shouldn't you think about your support for the beef and pork industry? See what I'm saying? If you go a roundabout way, forget the animals and the cruelty. If you're someone who says I fucking hate animals, I don't care. Okay, that's your that's where you are. Um, but do you really not care about the high use of the water table and the crises that are that come forward from that? So that's the interesting question. So again, if you haven't yet, folks, please do some reading on the 1919 Spanish flu, as it's called. The It was a swine flu. It was called the Spanish flu because they were the only ones in World War One reporting on it. All the other countries didn't want to look. See, this cable needs to go. The other the other countries, Jesus, I promise I'll change that XLR. The other countries did not want to look vulnerable, so they weren't talking about France, Germany, England weren't talking about their troops being exposed. And it was the troops and the people moving around that had the first wave of this. The swine flu. They've traced it back to somewhere in the American Midwest. Actually, I think Kansas, or I can look at that right now. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia, but I've read there's a number of science magazines that have written about this. Here it is. Spanish flu was coined because Spain was at the time the only Euro country where the press was printing reports of the outbreak, which had killed thousands in the armies fighting World War One. Other countries suppressed the news in order to protect morale. So I've seen a couple. It's only theory because we're 100 years back, but very good supportive detective work. And one of them is right, Fort Dix in New Jersey. There's an idea that um, I'm sorry, not Fort Dix. Fort Dix is the one in the 70s. The fort in, as I said, Kansas or some Midwestern state. They think that's where it started. Let me see if this says here. Because when they trace back the first people that had this weird flu, that's all they called it at the time. It was our soldiers that were in the Midwest somewhere. Well, I can't find it here, but you can easily find that. And the funny part is, they just happened to have gone. They were short of space in these temporary barracks for these American soldiers. They were just going to leave to go to World War One, and they were all housed. They were bringing them in from all around, the Midwest or the South to this, fort, and then they were going to start shipping out. And when you read about it, they were short on kind of barracks and tents, so they doubled up. So they had a lot of these guys, like you had a lot of these double and triple beds, like real close to each other, and I guess people in sleeping bags. Like, it was overcrowded. What a fucking what bad timing, right? Because there was just a couple guys that apparently had this really bad flu, and they were coughing and sneezing, and we knew enough about medicine. Maybe they were kept to one side, or maybe they were sent to the infirmary. But what they didn't know is it was a highly contagious thing. And by the time all of those troops got on the ships to go to Europe for World War One, it was starting to get crazy. And like on the ship, I mean, you read about this. It's a fascinating story, and I'm amazed none of us are paying attention because it could teach us a lot about what's happening right now. So on that boat ride over, the American military folks, tons of people were getting sick. I mean, because you're on a boat, you're confined, and still they just kind of thought, "Oh man, it's the flu or bad cold." Right? What else are you going to think? But in hindsight, the numbers were grave. They get to France, get off the fucking boat, and join with, we are allies with the French and with other countries at that point. And immediately we were together with other troops of other countries, and whammo, you had this outbreak in Europe of the 1918 flu. And of course, troops, all you're doing is traveling and interacting with other people that are coming back and forth. So it spread all around Europe very quickly. And then again, just by sea usually. Of course, there was people starting to fly then. I don't know how much commercial flight was happening, but the ones I read about are usually another ocean liner that went to the Middle East or went to Africa and just kept spreading and spreading this stuff. Um, the point is, we should really read about it and learn about it because here in America, it was a massive outbreak, and we were wearing masks. And there were some people who didn't want to wear masks. Yeah, in 1918, and there was fights over should we be quarantining, and there was a big parade planned in Philadelphia, and people were warned and said, "Don't do this. This is there's this weird flu, and it's taking people down. It's killing people." Globally, some estimates say between 50 and 60 million died in the 1918 to whenever it ended, early 1920, I guess. Um, 50 to 60 million people. So um, this parade went on in Philadelphia. They said, no, we're going to do it. It's important. And sure enough, thousands of people came down with this flu because they were just marching, no masks, doing their thing. Gee, sounds familiar. Can you can you spell Sturgis? So anyway, I don't know. I'm just kind of obsessed with the 1918. I've watched a couple of YouTubes. There's a couple of documentaries. I ran out of probably 10 little articles on this. History articles, scientific articles. I've read the Wikipedia entries and then some of the links. There's a lot of science on this, folks. There's a lot of documentation, and I urge you to read it because there's no Bill Gates, there's no George Soros, there's no spin from, oh, well, the World Health Organization. Did you know that George Bush's grandfather was oh man. And there's none of that shit. CDC, Fauci, nothing, no spin, no Obama to blame everything on. Um, just a fucking virulent, zoonotic pathogen that spread around the earth and killed millions of people. We can learn something looking at that because we're going into the fall, we're going into flu and cold season, which every expert has warned is we really got to be vigilant on this because already people get a little sicker in the colder weather, more bugs are flying around, people because of their own habits suppress their immune systems a little bit more. So it's a time to really support your immune system, folks. Get on those anti-cold type of foods. You know, look at the spices and herbs that strengthen your lungs and your respiratory system. There's tons of them. You know, there's tons of aromatics that I'd be getting into my diet. And here we are, the first. This is the first day of fall. I think it is today. Um, it's either the 21st or 22nd usually, right? But uh, this is the time. Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yeah, exactly. So this is the last day of the summer today. So goodbye summer. Goodbye stranger. Uh, Next time I see you, it will be fall. But it's a good time to just start thinking about your immune system because the shit's gonna get real. I've read some articles though that the flu, they're expecting pretty good numbers this year because everyone's so spooked. So a lot more people are going to get the vaccine for the flu. Number one, a lot of people are finally washing your hands. How about that? It took a fucking pandemic for a lot of guys, and I'm looking at you guys, to fucking wash your filthy hands. Jesus Christ, man. And I know humans, our immune system builds because of germs. I get it. Some jackass is going to explain to me now that germs build your immune system. I know that. I understand that. I know humans weren't obsessed with Purell and soap for tens of thousands of years. Um, However, when you're in leaving the bathroom at the Charlotte airport and I see your miserable ass walk out and not wash your hands after watching you urinate, you're disrespectful. And I'm really happy that you've learned how to wash your hands now. you know, so they're expecting that flu season is going to be a little better because of all these habits. People staying home when they're coughing and sneezing and sick instead of selfishly insisting on going to the concert or whatever. Um, so take care of yourselves. Build your immune system. Every Monday we talk about miso soup and ginger and cayenne and turmeric and all these wonderful aromatics that are in Indian food, Ayurvedic foods, especially, that are so good for the immune system. We talk about allium foods. We talk about, the onion family, the garlic family. We talk about leeks and all these wonderful things that are so great for the immune system. And we talk about supporting your immune system by enhancing your digestion, by going a little more alkaline, eating some more fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, leafy greens, fresh organic nuts and seeds, good fats, macadamia nuts, almonds, cashews, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds. Great sources of protein, great sources of fat, and great alkalinizing foods. What's not to love? Apple cider vinegar, extra virgin olive oil in the basis of your salad dressings and marinades and things like that. So easy, folks. Delicious, incredible ways to build your immune system. And I would prioritize that. This is reminding me to get on the ball. I'm going to go have some miso soup, actually. I got a bunch of dried mushrooms and some scallions, and I'm going to have a quick miso soup after this. So I'm going to make sure we're stocked up on ginger. We always have cayenne. We always have those kinds of things that are great for the immune system. But I urge you to if you care to support your immune system, to look at foods. Finally, dairy. If you just don't want to get off dairy, you just I beg you, just do it in the fall. Do it in the time period coming up because dairy is one of the number one mucus forming foods. Okay, processed grains is very mucus forming. White flour, garbage, makes a ton of mucus in the body. Um, any processed grains too much, even rice flour and tapioca flour, all that stuff. You have too much of it, mucusy. I had some rice the other day, and that's what you can get a little bit of. I get immediate reaction to too many grains, and when I don't have grains, mucus free. My breathing is clean, and I only discovered this in the last couple of years. By the way, I used to think, oh, I've got another cold. I'm congested. And once I realized that you can control that with quitting dairy, quitting, too many processed grains. Some people nuts can get them too congested. So this is the season we're going into. It starts tomorrow to kind of say, yeah, maybe dairy. Maybe I don't need it right now if it's gonna make me runny and congested and sit in my chest and all that stuff. That's We're going into a mystery season, folks. It's the first one in our lifetimes. Think of this. This is the first fall in your life with a deadly pathogen doing damage globally. Think about that. It's a new virus. November, so we're talking in a couple of days. It's gonna be 10 months of knowledge. Ah, they just discovered this. It's novel. Late November, 2019, which is why they keep getting new information on it. So yeah, as we wrap up, I just wanted to just have a little fun today, talk about what we're eating, talk about what we ate, but also remind us that we are here. We're in lockdown. We're in a global pandemic. In large part because of the way we treat animals. You know, um, where's that damn? The way we treat animals, the way we abuse them, the way we, the wet markets, but also the good old American chicken factories and things like that. I'm looking for that cat picture. Oh, there it is. This kind of thing is what we're talking about. I love that. I mean, I'm laughing because I'm sick like that. It's funny, but it's also deadly serious and sad. Very sad. Very sad. Um, so anyway, I just think these things are all connected, and if we start economically impacting the animal slaughter industry, then that's the only time it'll change. So, okay, great. Thank you. I got the American Dad link here. Shirley has put up. Thank you very much, Shirley. Um, and Sabina says, just buy less and pay a price that allows everyone to live. Thank you. I agree. I'm very anti-consumerist. We were just talking about this the other day, actually, Robin and I. Other than food and consumables and you know renewables, renewable resources, as we would say, preferring glass containers over plastic, all that kind of stuff. Um, I buy a lot of our vegetables without packaging. I go with bags, and I get the broccoli and the asparagus and the you know tomatoes and fruits in our own bags. So do everything you can to consume less. Yes, you're very, very correct. And advocate for better stuff. If it costs a bit more to get quality stuff so that down the chain you're supporting working wages, then do it. And you don't get to have as fancy of a car as you wanted as quickly. Maybe get it next year. But so this gets into a whole social justice discussion, and I know that's not what people want to hear, but it fits right in with food. Food's one of your ground zero ways to um, to address it because you're eating 2, 3, 4 times a day. So Elizabeth, yes, you're right. Elderberry, yarrow, exactly. Stinging nettles. There's so many great herbs, so many great things. Goes hand in hand with just build your immune system in the first place. So there's a thing that happens sometimes with natural solutions, and Chinese medicine is filled with this sort of thing, like Chinese medicine, which is awesome. But my one critique is they have all these wonderful solutions for stuff. Some of them are not plant based. Some of them are tiger gonads and horns of various elks ground down into potions. So they have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not happy about. But lots of Chinese medicine is plant-based, root-based, herb-based. But one of the problems I have with it is that a lot of their perspective is, oh, this person has gout. Awesome. Well, here's this combination of I don't know. I'll make it up, but let's say it's cayenne with some turmeric equivalent and ginger and some ground bone from something else and this and that and maybe some yarrow or whatever. Again, I'm making that up just to prove a point. But Chinese medicine often says, "Here you go. Here's this compound. Give it to the person with gout." Okay, thanks. And you leave the Chinese doctor. And I'm not saying every Chinese practitioner, but it's a common thing, and it's a common thing in Western medicine too. By the way, I'm just bringing up Chinese because it's a more natural attempt. But what's missing from what I just said? The Chinese practitioner and the Western doctor, by the way, almost never says, "Oh, let's look at why you have gout. Let's look at how you got gout, why you got gout, what encourages gout." What's your diet like? What's your exercise regimen? Do you drink? Do you do this? Do you do that? Are you a smoker? Do you take drugs? Like let's go through and say, well, why do you have gout? Because gout's not good. It's highly, it's an inflammatory situation. It's very painful. It can be a canary in a coal mine to a bunch of other stuff. Um, so that's my one thing is that a lot of times. So anyway, on that note, all of these herbs and vitamins are great, but let's build our immune system. Let's get healthier from scratch. And we're here every week to talk about that. All right, I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to get out of here. I got a lot of music to do. I've got some interviews to edit today. I've got an interview with, it's going to go up tonight, I think, with the great Steve Hunter. And I just finished putting the bumpers and editing on that. Steve Hunter, if you don't know that name, amazing guitarist. He was with Mitch Ryder and the Mitch Ryder's Detroit in the late 60s. Remember Mitch Ryder? So you probably know a bunch of his songs. But then Steve went on to play with Lou Reed. He plays on Lou Reed's Berlin album. Amazing classic record. But then he went on to work with, Lou, he did, him and Dick Wagner were the dueling guitarist at the beginning of, remember Rock and Roll Animal, the great live Lou Reed record? So that's Steve Hunter. Steve Hunter also plays that great solo at the beginning of Train Kept a Rollin' by Aerosmith. That's not Perry or Whitford. It's actually him and Dick Wagner again to split the solos throughout that song. The two of them went on to play on the next several Alice Cooper albums. Alice Goes to Hell, Welcome to My Nightmare, Lace and Whiskey, the live album, a couple others up to 2016. Steve's on a few in the 21st century. But then Steve also went on to do Peter Gabriel's first album. Remember that one? Salisbury Hill, all that. That's him. So he's one of these guys that, and then he's played with, countless other people. He's on some Tracy Chapman albums and just all kinds of pop people and rock and roll people. But he's one of these folks that you kind of go, I think I remember the name, but you don't. And you go look him up, and he's on all these wonderful records that you know. So anyway, his interview probably going to go up tonight. And I'm doing interviews for something called MakeWeirdMusic.com. You can find that. And you can find them here on my Facebook. Finally, please subscribe to my YouTube. I need YouTube subscribers. I'm trying to get up to 1,000. And I'll put the link. Let's get the link in here. But yeah, subscribe. I always forget to bring this up until the end. And I remember I do this show for free. I take a couple hours and do this. And but if you'd like to donate, feel free. I've got a PayPal link and a Venmo link. Of course, they are the same damn company. But I've got that right in the description on the top of this Facebook chat, unless you're watching on YouTube or Twitter. Let's see. Here it is. Okay, great. So I'm going to put, please subscribe if you care to my YouTube. And just subscribe and watch a few videos and hit the thumbs up, hit the like so that the algorithm can realize that I have some people checking shit out. So I just put the subscription there. Yeah, take care of yourselves. Drop any recipe ideas in here. Folks usually tune into this later on. And I've got a couple cool guests coming up. Um, and random order, but let me just say right now, a couple chefs. There's a really wonderful chef coming up in a couple weeks. I've got it's almost the end of September, right? So in October, I've got a friend who's a vegan and animal rights person and cook and journalist in Israel who's going to talk to us about Israeli food. And our hearts go out to the people in Israel, right? Because I like to say Happy Rosh Hashanah to anyone who is celebrating that right now. But in Israel, man, their numbers are blowing up so bad, they fucking shut down on Friday night as the holiday began. Think about that. Here's a holiday that for thousands of years people were used to joyful celebrations, being with their family, going to temple, going around, having fun, you know, uh, giving thanks, and they're in lockdown for the first time. So give a thought for Israel. Give a thought for Tennessee, New York, Florida. Numbers are crazy in Florida. And it's funny, I think we're just getting inured to this. I was reading the other day in Florida, the numbers were over 3,100 new infections that day, and it wasn't the news. When Florida hit 1,000, just go look back. It was crazy news. When they hit 2,000, it was headlines. Florida is the third most populous state, so it's one that we pay attention to. But I just think we're like the frog boiling in water. We're getting so used to these numbers. We're so numb. You see them every day. They start to mean nothing because, again, just on Thursday, Florida was 3,116 new cases. Not a peep. Not a peep. I even had a friend say, "Oh, things are better in Florida." Well, yeah, they are. They're down from when they were 5,000 a day, but 3,100 is batshit crazy. No pun intended. It's bad, and so I'm going to keep doing that. I've been paying attention to Chile, Peru, Australia. We've got friends and family in all those countries. Singapore, England, Canada. I speak to someone in Canada once or twice a week, and we compare numbers. Ontario, they were freaking out because they went back over 100 not too long ago. 100 cases, new cases per day. And here you have, um, we have states running 30 times that rate, and we're not, you know. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Not much we can control, but we can control eating a healthy diet so that we can do as best as we can through this madness. So that's why I'm here every Monday, a little alternative to the news, a little alternative to the tsunami, the shitstorm, the trifecta of madness that's coming at us. Um, I don't in any way downplay all the other news. I'm just here to give you a couple hours of something a little different. And so take care of yourselves. Um, be well. Let's see. I always look for one more question. There's not one more question. Awesome. We will see you next Monday. Until then, keep going meatless. Take care.